So, Alan, you've been you're a veteran of franchising. This is not your first go around with Art of Drawers. Actually, you are the founder of ShelfGenie, a 205 unit chain that you built. But you're here to talk about Art of Drawers. So let's get started. How did you get started with this?
Yeah, so it really started with ShelfGenie. ShelfGenie, we do custom pull-out shelving for kitchen cabinets and pantries, very similar to a closet concept, but we go into people's kitchens, their cabinets and pantries instead of their closets and organize them with custom products. Started that in 2006, franchised it in 2008, and we grew very quickly. So, the Great Recession hit the fall of 2008. That's the exact moment we decided to franchise. Obviously, that was not anything we saw coming, along with most people. And so, that was a pretty terrifying moment for everybody.
Yeah.
But it turned out that was a really good thing for us. We're an Inc. 500 company, 2009, 10, 11. We grew really quickly, really for a couple reasons. In a recession, franchising does typically very well. You have a lot of what I call forced entrepreneurs. They lost their six-figure job. They're looking, they're sitting on their nest egg. Their balance sheet starts getting whittled away, and they're like, "Do I get another job?" And a lot of them have kind of figured out that safety net of having, that job really isn't a safety net. There, you can get laid off, you can get fired. Any of those things can happen. So, we got a lot of folks, really good folks out of corporate America that joined our team, but also, people stopped doing those big renovations when cash is flowing all over the place, just like we've seen the last few years, plus 2006, 7, beginning of 8. People are gutting their kitchens. We still got a lot of work. We do well when the economy's doing well, but they stopped gutting their kitchens and doing these big projects and do smaller, affordable upgrades. So that's what we found with ShelfGenie, and we grew very quickly. 2016 was a year, and I remember it was kind of the spring. We'd just try to roll out a really basic product, like we just add another product to the mix out of all the things we do, and it took forever to get it out. Like I think it
Mhm.
was 6 months before the system adopted, because you have hundreds and hundreds of people in the field with all your franchise partners and designers, installers, and innovation really just kind of came to a screeching halt, around that time. And that was really frustrating for me because I love to build and innovate and grow. So Art of Drawers was actually born out of that experience. So the idea was that I would start Art of Drawers, upgrade the brand, upgrade the products, the materials, the way we did things, all the innovation, technology that I really wanted to do, but became very difficult, if not impossible, to do at that point. And we would award that franchise to our top performing franchise partners, the ones that really were capable of innovating. So that was the idea. And as I started building that out, Neighborly came along, and my partners had an interest in selling. We had some investors. They've been, on the bus for over a decade, and we could get them a really good return. So I agreed to sell ShelfGenie, but I did not want to sell Art of Drawers in that concept. And we had also spent about $5 million building a tech package that runs, it's a full CRM, but it also manages all the complexity of our business. There's a reason why our industry, there's no one out there that does it at scale other than ShelfGenie and now Art of Drawers. So I licensed that technology platform to Neighborly, to ShelfGenie, but kept it, and now that's what Art of Drawers is doing. And really what I'm most excited about is with Art of Drawers, we're using our franchise partners to launch building an industry. So we started franchising the fall of last year. We're up to 24 units in 6 different markets. So we're growing very quickly. We've got another couple that are closing the next few days, and we've got a great pipeline. So we're looking at adding about 100 units this year with 25 to 30 franchise partners.
Wow, that's incredible growth. But somebody such as yourself who has been there and done that can certainly handle it. It's not for the faint of heart. An emerging franchisor that maybe their first go around. I don't necessarily suggest opening 100 units that quickly.
No, yeah, it helps us because we don't have, build out. So I think any brick and mortar locate, that's where you
Sure.
get a lot of people, you just sell a lot and they can't find and open them. Our franchise partners open within 30 days.
Yeah.
They start cash flowing very quickly after that. But I really spent, 2019 is when I started building it out. And really from the very beginning, started with the end in mind of franchising.
Mhm.
So we spent 4 years building out everything just to franchise. So everything we did was very intentional with the idea of franchising. having done it before, one of the big mistakes that I made, and there's a lot of them that I made with ShelfGenie, so it's been a lot of fun to go back and start over. Not you don't get too many chances for a do-over.
Right.
Like going back to high school and doing all those things over again. Going back to franchise again. And one of the big mistakes I made, and I think a lot of people do, is I built the organization from the bottom up. And what that means is, it always starts out day one as you, and then you hire some people to do some things, and you get enough people that do things. So you hire some people to manage those people that do things. And then when you get enough of those people managing, you hire some directors to manage those people, and then you hire C-level, and you're really building the organization from the ground up. And that's really, really hard to do because, having that leadership team, and I always struggled trying to work myself out of a job, and I never could quite get there because there's always that extra layer. So I invested very heavily in building a senior management team in the very beginning, and they're the ones that are building out the organization. I'm involved, but having that senior leadership team that's going to stay with you versus finally getting to the point where you have that senior leadership team and you're building on top of probably not the best foundation, because when you start, the people that you're starting with aren't the ones that are always going to get you to the end.
I'm smiling like from ear to ear as you're talking, because that is exactly what I experienced myself. It was the mistake that I think a lot of us founders make. First of all, we can only afford what we can afford, right?
Yep.
So we're like, I need this job done, and I need marketing done, and oh crap, I need training done. I need somebody I need some admin work. But we find ourselves having a very nice staff, people who are, they're dedicated, they want to win, but it might not necessarily be the right team, the right horses that you need to really be a successful franchisor. And I'm smiling as you're saying all of this because I went through the same point in time when I finally hired for my weakness, and I hired senior folks. I did have one person though in my organization from the very beginning that started out as a bookkeeper and is today like the CFO today. And that is an anomaly where this one person was able to really grow and adapt. So she is the definitely anomaly in my entire 20 plus year career. But for the most part, it was a lot of, I need to get this role filled and this role filled and just kind of getting tasks done. Everything changed for my company once I hired a COO president and we started building bench strength. We started really developing departments, and it took the pressure off of us, but we became like a real company at that point.
Yep. Getting people that are going to adapt and grow. So that's one of the things when you're running a company that's scaling very quickly, you go, and I've seen it happen so many times, it's painful to watch. You get these people that are heroes one day and you put them on a pedestal and they're the greatest thing ever. And 1 year later, you're letting them go. Because they can't adapt and grow. And the other thing, that kind of works with that is culture. So I've been very intentional about culture. We have 3 core values: think like an entrepreneur, act as one team, and deliver wow experience to our client. And we've defined those very specifically under each one, are about 4, 5, 6 very specific, this is what that means. So embrace failure if we know why, celebrate success if we know why. And, going into that, being candid, being vulnerable, asking for help. The platinum rule. Most people haven't heard the platinum rule. Whenever we hire somebody, I go through all of our values for about 15 minutes. And the golden rule is treat others as you like to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others as they would like to be treated, which is really helpful, especially when you're dealing with customers, because our demographic tends to be older, and you get a 20, 30-year-old working with a customer, like treating them like it requires some education. But starting with culture and talking about values, we hire on values and we fire on values. And our values are designed where if you're a culture fit, it's really hard to not perform in our company unless you're sitting in a seat that you're not good at. You don't get it, want, or have the capacity for that seat. So we use the EOS model, Entrepreneur Operating System. I'm sure you've heard of it. That was another game changer, is having an integrator that everybody reports to that person. Visionaries can be integrators for a while, but we get really bored and we get frustrated.
It's exhausting.
But like you said, it requires resources, and that's the tough thing. If you're trying to cash flow the growth of your franchise, I think it's very dangerous. So starting out a franchise, and if you've already jumped into the lake and you're trying to swim, you're in it. So you're falling into my favorite definition of an entrepreneur, which is jumping out off a cliff and building the plane on the way down. But if at all possible, make sure you've got a lot more funding than you think you need, because then you can do some of these things. If not, you're building it from the ground up or building the plane after you've jumped off the cliff.
Right, which is exactly what I did. Did you bootstrap ShelfGenie, or did you take in outside money?
Started with $30,000. So we got to a point where in early 2008, we did bring on 2 investors with it for equity. Equity is the most expensive way you can capitalize your business, but I slept beautifully at night, not having debt hanging out there. Our balance sheet was always clean. So yeah, I brought in 2 investors that put in a sizable amount of money, and we gave them, a good percentage of the company. Nothing crazy, but and that gave us the ability to do some things that we wouldn't have done. I self-funded Art of Drawers up until very recently, and I brought in a couple investors, mainly because what I've missed having those early investors. There's something about waking up every day, working, to give someone else a return other than yourself. I call it like a slight push at the bottom, at the back, small of your back. You don't want investors that are going to be shoving you, but getting some people who, they're investing, and if things don't work out, they can walk away from it and they're still they're unscathed. Maybe not super happy, but unscathed, and they know they're adults going into it. But I really missed that. So we did a small raise just to bring in some investors, and we're using those funds to do, a lot of really forward-thinking stuff that's going to pay off a couple years from now that we typically wouldn't do if we were. And we're well funded now. We have a clean balance sheet, but that's the main reason I brought some investors in.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.